All righty, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. It's about 3:36 p.m. where I am. And today, I kind of want to get on here and kind of talk a little bit about some stuff that I think will benefit you. Okay. One of the things that has been coming up a lot lately is, do I have to be initiated into a tradition? The African Caribbean traditions, not just that, but also just about any tradition, you do have to be initiated into, especially these very private sects. Okay, it will benefit you in the long run because each peristyle or house has their own lineage, their own teachings. They worship different spirits, but also perform different types of magic. Okay, some are bound by white light traditions such as healing, herbalism, even. Okay, whereas others you can perform black magic. They utilize fetishes, effigies, and herbalism as well. But it is always good to do your own homework, no matter what. Okay, and this will actually benefit you more than having somebody teach you verbally. Okay, either face to face or over a video, such as this. Okay, it will benefit you a lot more if you do the work yourself and put the time in. But you got to also remember that even in these traditions and in these communities, there are also those who are fakes and cons. Okay. There's been a few over the years that when you call them out, they flat up and just disappear and shun you. Okay. Or they'll block you on social media. Okay. Just because you caught them in a lie and you called them out on it. Okay. So when you get into a tradition, let's say, for an example, voodoo, okay, or Santa Morte, or say, for an example, Santeria or Palo Mayambi, Palo Monte, even. You can go out and with today's technology, you can go underneath, say, Amazon, eBay, ebook, what is it, Scribd, I think, if I remember correctly. I don't even know if that app's still around. Yeah, that's right. I'm that old. Okay. Um, um, and still, just think about it. If I'm that old to remember Scribd, DOS even, just imagine, with all the technology today that I'm still not up to date on. Okay. Just saying. Yeah. So there's a lot of books. A lot of everybody keeps putting out books on different traditions, different topics, different styles of Satanism or whatever. That's because everybody wants to be popular. They want to be a part of the in group. Okay. It's all about money, acknowledgement. It's about numbers, not about actual facts and practices. Okay. So some of the questions that have been coming up to me lately is hi, my phone just I just got a text message from somebody. And but anyways, do I have to be initiated? What sources can I begin my journey with? Well, let me put it to you this way first. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody, because everybody is led to feel like they matter. Okay. But those of you who get put on your big boy or big girl panties, you get out into the world and you realize that is a lie. Okay. Not everybody is equal. Not everybody is going to like you. Not everybody is going to agree with you. Okay. which is why I always tell you to do your own homework. Okay? Always back up what you preach and always make yourself available to the public. Okay? So I gathered some books here. Okay? Just for some of you who want to get into the African Caribbean traditions. Okay? I have a wide selection that I can choose from. But most of the comments today are about Santeria, Pedo Mayambi, and Voodoo. Okay, so I wanted to kind of just stick to these three religions and these three philosophical traditions. Okay, so how should I say this? When you get into a style, number one, you could easily be led down a desolate road. Okay, which is why it's always good to do your own homework to begin with. You get into certain philosophies or certain groups, they will not help you for at least 6 months to a year. Okay, you go with the Celtic Golden Dawn system. Just just to give you a fact here, you practice for a year and then you reflect upon that practice for a day. It's called the year and a day process. Okay, this will determine whether or not that tradition is for you. Okay, and this same method works for every single religious and philosophical group out there. Okay. When you get into certain traditions, a lot of them are very, very spiritual. A lot of them are a community and they will stick together like glue. Have you ever wondered why, when you go to a church, say for an example, Christianity, that Catholics refer to you as a number? Okay. A number. Mainstream Christianity will sit there and literally, as long as you're doing what they want, you're good. You're being led down a desolate road there because at this point, you're in servitude. You don't have a voice. You don't have your legs on dry land because you have not built upon well, let's just quote Anton Zandler Bay's The 21 Satanic Points here, okay? Because it's a very good example. Build not upon sand, but upon rock. Build not for today or yesterday, but for all time. Okay? This is what you want to do within any philosophical or religious perspective, especially if you want to make that a lifestyle. Okay? And the African Caribbean traditions are a lifestyle that you choose to live in. You choose to live by those creeds. You choose to work with only the Loa or the Orisha. Okay? You choose that. It's like demonolators. Okay? You want to be a demonolator, you're choosing to only work with demons. And occultism, hermetics, let's say those who want to work with the Enochian keys are only interested in working with angels. Okay? Those who get into the red magic are working with jinn. You know, the jinn, the genie. Okay? The Devi. Okay? Which are both good and evil. Now, I had a client which shared something with me earlier today. And this person's definitely being led down a desolate road by this group. It's clear that the Godfather, okay, doesn't know what he's talking about. He's leading others into the act of dissension, okay, which is another reason to know your shit and to do your own homework so that you don't get led down that desolate road. Also, if you know others in those traditions, reach out to them and say, hey, this is what my Polero or my priest or priestess is saying. Okay. Does this add up with what you've been taught? Okay. But in the same time, remember, not every house, not every peristyle is the same, but they're built off the same creed. Okay. Keep that in mind. Now, one of the other things, should really turn that down, but I got clients beeping in too. You really want to get a firm foundation in that tradition. That means study and practice, experiment, find out what works. And if something doesn't work for you, reach out into a different tradition or a different sect and find out if something there fits you. Okay? Voodoo is one of those traditions that is highly adaptive. Okay? It has expanded from Africa throughout the world. Okay? It has been infiltrated and adapted into Christian and Catholic views. A lot of people have forgotten this and they just go with it. The lower are now saints, okay? And they just go with it. They don't go back into their history and actually go into the African traditions. The For an example, if you go into Malawi, you go into Congo, Ethiopia, you're going to see different variations of laws. You're going to see various different traditions of spirits, practices even. Palo means people of the sticks. People of the sticks. Voodoo is ancestral. Ancestral, meaning you're working with your ancestors. You don't get to choose which ancestor comes to you, but they're your ancestors. And you can work with the Loa to gain knowledge, power even. One of the topics out there is who is more powerful, a Boku or that of a Hungan or Nimba? Boku or magic is more potent, hands down, because they're not restricted. They're known as those who work with both hands. Good, evil, light, dark, angels, demons, living, dead, spiritual, and physical. You name it, it's there. Okay? So I'm going to show you some works. And like I said, every individual has an opinion. And that's because they're led to believe that they're special. Okay? My clients, I can't speak for you, you viewers, but my time's valuable to me, okay, and to my family. So I have a part-time job. I do ministry and I teach throughout the week. I even pay homage and spend hours in front of my altar worshiping, okay, which is why I wanted to do this video to help you guys get into these traditions. Now I'm going to go with. Let's go with these first. A lot of people, they don't realize that there is a huge difference between Palo Monte and Palo Mayumbi. Okay? Palo Mayumbi is black magic, hands down. It's sorcery. This is where you physically perform spells and rituals and spell castings to make your reality known. Okay? This author here, who wrote Palo Mayumbi, Spirits, Rituals, and Spells, Palo Mayumbi, Palo Monte, Kimbiza, mixture of three different traditions. Okay, Palo Monte and Palo Mayumbi come from the same region, the Congo. But different practices. Okay, different methods, or better yet, different methods, I should say. And it looks like this. It's a very good reading. Now, personally, I do not, how should I say this? I do not agree with some of the views in this book. I don't. But the history is there. I am a historian, a history buff. Okay. And I can tell you that the history in this book is dead on. It aligns. Okay. Now, he even says that he's more radical, and other people that are in the tradition also state that he's a radical. A lot of them don't like him, but a few of them do. That's up to you if you like him or not. The Book of Palo. Okay, the Book of Palo is the Monty aspect. This is purely spiritual, and it deals with the history. It deals with the rites, rituals, symbols, and the Orisha. Lucario, Vera, Mundo, Lucario, Vence, Patella, and Lucirio Prima, Nadea, even, and so many more. He sticks to 5 generations, going as far back as the slave trade throughout his country. Very, very good book. I highly recommend this book for those of you who want to get into Palo, especially when you're tired of the physical and you just want to be in the spiritual. Me, I'm more spiritual. Okay, I like the spiritual aspects of it, and I like communing with spirits. So this really resonated with me personally. Okay, and it was also one of the first books on Palo that I got. Now, Santeria wise, there are 2 authors that I recommend within Santeria, and this is why. As somebody who's initiated into Santeria and has been for 11 years, these 2 individuals really put out a lot of facts, but they stick to the traditions and they tell it the way it is. I like that. They go into a great detail of information for those of you who are getting into it. The first one is Magine Gonzalez Whippler. Okay. Santeria, the religion. Very, very good book. Okay. Very, very good book. Santeria, African Magic in Latin America. Magine Gonzalez Whippler. Actually, that's the same author. I just realized that, so I do apologize on that one. Should have paid more attention. And this one here, this explains why I like this book as well. This one here goes into the actual study and practice of the Orisha, which I really did like. Goes into the photos, the practices, the sacrifices, the animals, the whole kit and caboodle. And not just that, but he goes into the prayers. This person goes into the prayers, people, okay, for each of these Orisha. I like that. Now, the client that I was telling you about a little bit earlier, use the, I don't know if the individual was not aware that they misspelled the Orisha's name. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But just from what this person was saying about this Orisha was incorrect on so many levels. And I want you to see how it's spelled. Chengo with a C. Okay? I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to try to get it to you. Maybe a little bit small. There you go. Okay? And you can see what I mean by the prayer. There's a lot of information. I mean, it goes into a lot of things, including herbalism, the practices. I really like that about this guy. Okay? Now, there are different types of voodoo in the world. Slavic voodoo is associated with paganism. Okay? Paganism within the Slavic traditions. This is actually where I ended up making the full circle back into Haitian Voodoo, because Haitian Voodoo was always an interest of mine years ago. And I dabbled in it, but never got into it seriously until last year. So, and then I started learning that there are different spellings and different vocabulary, okay, from different sects and systems of voodoo, ranging from New Orleans all the way back into Africa. So the first book is the first book I got on voodoo, and it's by Sally Ann Glassman. Okay, it's called Voodoo Visions. A friend of mine who practices out in Las Vegas sent me this. She's actually the one that turned me on to this book. And I really like this book because of the fact that, number one, it's a big book. Okay. The writing's pretty big, but it's straightforward. There's no bullshit in it. Right up front, you're learning the history, you're learning the different types of practices, you're learning the different types of practitioners and what they do. You're learning about the chakras, the kundalini, and opening this stuff up, all before you even get into the various different systems of Lola. Okay. And they really go, and she really goes into the Lola on a serious note, from litany to Creole, the translations, the traditional, the visions, the glyph or hieroglyphs, that drawings that they do, the seals. Santa Morte on a Harley. Hey, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel, indeed. From one devout to another of beloved death. So, I mean, she really goes into the various different types of belief structures of the Lola. I really liked that about her. Okay. The other one is by Robert W. Pelton, and it's called The Complete Book of Voodoo. This book here is another variation of the Creole version, and it's really put out there very simplistically. A lot of detail, but dubbed down. Not a lot of horseshit, okay, is put into this book. He goes into the herbs, the plants, he goes into the powders, he goes into the practices, the types of rituals, but he also goes into the how to make them, the different types of things like the effigies, the voodoo dolls. He names off like 4 or 5 of them right off the bat. I like that. Okay. For those of you getting into voodoo, you probably don't know about what a voodoo doll can do. Not many authors will sit there and go into these practices and these tools and tell you exactly how to make them into, literally get into creation of them. Okay. He does. It looks like this. I highly recommend this book to you. Okay. And like I said, it's by Robert W. Pelton. Okay. Very, very good author. Straightforward, just like Sally Glassman. Right straight to the points. No bullshit. Okay. I love that about these two authors. But like I said, after going into necromancy and ending up finding my way into Slavic witchcraft, and then coming across voodoo and getting introduced to Papa Gedi, and then started working with him about a year ago, I ended up falling back into voodoo. That is something that's very, very interesting to me. So I ended up collecting books on Haitian Voodoo, and I started doing my research and getting into it on a serious level. So I'm going to share with you some things, some books on that I believe is up your alley and worth your time. Okay. The first one, I've heard kind of a 60-40, 60% like, 40% despise. Okay. And it's called Haitian Voodoo, and it's by Montague Joyner Sedlak. Okay. And it looks like this. Some people think he's more of a zealot. That's the best term I can give you right there, is a zealot. Somebody who's fully into voodoo, but not going by tradition. He's basically doing his own thing. But when you get into it, you're going into a lot of detail. history, number one. More so, you're going into the Kalfu. You're going into the actions of the grace and the Lav Levi Tet. You're going into a lot of different things in detail when it comes to the Loa. Okay. And I really like that. And he even talks about Haiti today. Okay. Anybody who's studied Haiti and the Dominican Republic know about the slave trade. You probably already know about their history, the uprisings, the downfall through because of the debt to Europe, and the invasion of America twice, and how voodoo has had to struggle to even remain afloat in that country, not just its economical decline over the years. This is a section that really holds my fancy. Not only because of the practices, but the entire culture is fascinating to me. I like that culture. I don't know what it is about that culture. Maybe it's because they're old school, just like me. I don't know, but I really do resonate with this guy. So I do like him as an author. His views on Haitian Voodoo to me are pretty much sound. They're not bullshit or you know going off track. They are a little bit radical in thought, but when you get down to it, it's really right there. It's in your face. Take it or leave it. That's the best way I can tell you. Now, the real good books that I got on Haitian Voodoo is by Membo Chita Tan. Okay, and the other one is Membo Vae Viyizo Kamandi Lamen Fo. Okay, and I'll get into these in just a minute. But Haitian Voodoo, an introduction to Haiti's indigenous spiritual tradition by Membo Chita Tan. I've read this book so many times over the last year. Okay, this is my go-to book for Haitian Voodoo. Okay, and I'll tell you why. In fact, I'm just gonna open this up and kind of show you some stuff. So she really gets in and she breaks down the three types of Loa. Okay, not many people do that. Not many practitioners do that. She breaks it down from the Radi to the Petro to the Gedi family. She describes how a peristyle is set up. Okay, more so, she gets into the traditions of the practices, the different variations, and the struggles within voodoo throughout history. Like I said, I'm a history buff, so this fascinates the hell out of me. But she also describes the altars and how to set them up, how to protect them, what foods to give. She goes into the soups. She goes into the recipes, the ceremonies for each loa, and the furniture. And she even gives sources in the back. Okay, that things like let me just go into the back here so I can show you what I mean. Sticks, Stones, Roots, and Bones by Stephanie Rose Bird. Okay. You have The Flying Witches of Veracruz. Okay. Which is a shaman story, by the way. A true story of an indigenous witchcraft, devil's weed, and trance healing in Aztec Pugeria. Okay. Another African Caribbean tradition. Love that one. Celtic Lore and Spellcraft of the Dark Goddess, Invoking the Morrigan by Stephanie Woodfield. That's a very, very good book. I have another book by her. Very well written books on just the goddesses. Then you have The Woman Magician, revisioning Western metaphysics from a woman's perspective and experience by Brandy Wilson. Now, some of these books I haven't even heard of, but I'm in the process of ordering them so that I can read them and see where these authors are really coming from their own personalized experience. Now, these two are my two latest books on Haitian Voodoo. And like I said, for those of you who are getting into the spiritualism, getting serious with your practices, I would highly recommend these two books. And I would tell you why. The Sevis Loa, Vibrational Crossroad of Voodoo. Okay. Mambo Zaizo, Kamandi Lamenfo, Creating Ritual for Spiritual Voodoo. This book is in depth. It is deep. And when I say deep, I'm not freaking joking. Okay. I had to read I had to read the first 5 pages. First 5 pages at least 6 times. I had to go through multiple different sources just on what she was talking about within those pages, those 5 to 6 pages. And trust me, I mean, they're straightforward. She starts off her book with a dictionary understanding of to serve. What does it mean to serve? What does it mean to be in service to a spirit? What does it mean to worship a spirit? What does it mean to be a devotee of a spirit? You see what I mean? Just by starting a book out like this, I've never seen an author do this. Okay, not once in 32 years of practice of various traditions. I have never seen any author or teacher start off their lectures or their books like this. Okay, and this is just in chapter 1, right up front. So, I mean, I went through a lot of different sources from my personal library. I went through a Theurgus to to the dictionary, college level, the Webster's. I went through different belief structures from the Bible to the Satanic Bible to the Witches Bible, just to get into the understanding of where she's coming from in that sense. It is a very deep and complex thought of what does it mean to be in service to a spirit? How do you become initiated into a specific sect or denomination, a specific root working, such as Bergeria, Kimbiza, Palo Monte, Palo Mayambi, you know, Santeria, Santa Morte, getting into Quimbanda, Umbanda, getting into Haitian voodoo or Creole voodoo, Haitian, African voodoo. They're all different. Okay, each system is different, and it comes down to their traditions. So I turned around and I just got this one in today. So I'm looking forward to delving into this one. It's called Serving the Spirits, The Religion of Haitian Voodoo by Mambo V. Yi Zo Kamandi Lamentfo. Okay, and it looks like this. And I've also ordered a couple more that are on their way too. So I'll have to order more tomorrow when I get paid. But like I said, I've got a whole stack of books right over here on this table, and I'm going to show them to you real fast. Okay, just so you can see them. All right, just so you could see the books and what I'm talking about. I literally went into dictionaries. I went into books. I went into everything just to get my brain around what she was saying and how she started her books. I recommend these two books if you want to live more in the spirit and to actually dedicate yourself to these spirits. Now, with that said, do I have to be initiated? No. You don't have to go into a tradition and say, okay, I'm going to spend 3, 4, maybe even up to 2 grand over a 5-year course, learning and studying underneath one of these membos or polero, or a hangan, a polero, okay, witch, warlock, whatever, okay. You don't have to do that. You got to remember that in Haitian Voodoo, there's a little thing called the boko or bokor. A Bokor is considered to be someone who is uninitiated. Okay, this is somebody who comes into a tradition such as Haitian Voodoo or Voodoo in general and starts learning. They erect the altar. They contact the Loa, okay, the Loa, and they start working with these spirits. They go to Papa Legba. They learn how to summon him, okay, how to work with him to get him to open up the gateways so that they can go into the spirits that they want to get into. Okay, like say Baron Samedi, Baroness Dembella, or one of these other ones. I work with the spirits of the dead. I, I'm more dark arts, necromancy, chiromancy, Satanism, devil worship, the whole kit caboodle. That's where my intent is. But I live more in the spiritual. But the way it was described to me by a Boko was that you do not have to be initiated. You can learn and become a servant of these spirits on your own. A lot of these individuals will put up firewalls. They will sit there and they will say, you can't practice voodoo because you're white. Okay, well, guess what? You say I'm white, guess what? I hate to break it to you, but I'm a half breed. I'm half Native American, Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, 25% on my dad's side. My mother was Caucasian. Okay, you see that closed-minded, judgmental aspect of these religions. And unfortunately, the sad part is when you get into these definitions, and I can see why this lady, started off her books with a definition and the definitions thereof of both ceremonial and ritual aspects, down to what does it mean to serve the spirits. I can see why she did that. It literally tells me quite a bit about her just by that perspective. And like I said, the way this Bokor said is a Bokor could easily become a Hungan or a Kapalata, which is the female version of a Bokor, can easily become a Mambo and vice versa. Okay. But it comes down to Bandai, okay, the supreme god, if your magic works, is allowed to work or not. And the thing is, they're not concerned with heaven or hell like the Christians or Satanism. Okay, those who are so worried about going to hell and being chained to Lucifer or Satan or any demon. Okay, it's not like that. Whatever you practice, you're accountable for at the end, meaning the end of your life. You're accountable for. You're held accountable for your actions. Okay, that's that's the voodoo perspective here. Okay, when you get into Santeria, there is no one supreme god. There's the spirits, the Orisha. There is the creator, and the creator, is associated with the other Orisha. But in a sense, if you look at their history and their descriptions, the creator Orisha could be classified as Banda, Allah, or say, for an example, Jesus, if you want to get into mainstream Christianity. So, I mean, it could even as easily be Satan himself, okay, the supreme ruler. But if you follow the ancient texts and scrolls and stuff like that, like the Mishra, the Talmud, the Jewish Haggadah, you know, or the Yom Kippur rites, you're going to get into the traditions of seeing the spirits as being the ultimate evil, of the opposing force, either of the light or the dark. So, I mean, you got, for an example, Oya, who is the Orisha of death. Okay. You have Ungan or Ugan, who is the diplomat. the male and female version of the diplomat, passion, war, whatever you want to call it. It's all right there. It's all rolled up into one, either the male or the female aspect. So again, like the Wiccans and paganism, you're seeing the male and female aspect there. So again, you really want to know who you're working with and what tradition you're getting into. But do you have to get in there? Do you have to be initiated? Do you have to um, seriously get into this? No, you really don't. Another question that came up to me was, I'm worried that I'm going to break my oaths and my pacts to say the demons that I've worked from the Goetia or the Ars Goetia, Dante's Inferno, even. There's different hierarchies. Dictionary Infernal had a numerous amount. The Latin grimoire, known as Angel, I forget the name of it offhand. It's one of those Latin verses. Was it something Angelanus or something like that? I can't remember the name offhand, but it had a weird name to it. It had numerous angels that were considered to be fallen that would have been associated with the Book of Enoch, the tens of tens who took the daughters of men as wives and created Nephilim upon the world. So I mean, and then you have Mather's edition, and you have um, Francis Barrett's edition. You have Edward Arthur White's traditions of the hierarchies. Okay, so there's different hierarchies that you work with, different pantheons. So you really have to know that pantheon, and whatever you make for a deal or a pact, it's a lot different when you get into Santeria or Palo Mayumbi. I even working with Santa Morte for an example. Knowing that Santa Morte is a goddess who can literally transcend or ascend the planes of existence at will and freely. She goes to the underworld into the heavens. So you can work with her easily. You don't need to be initiated into them by a third party. Your initiation is between you and those spirits. Whatever deal or pact that you make with that spirit is between you and that spirit. It can be renegotiated if something no longer suits you or to your benefit. You can easily renegotiate. Like I said, Ungai, for an example, the diplomat, renegotiate with the spirit. Plain and simple. Renegotiate the pact. If you're into demonology, go to Lucifer Raphael, the ancient scribe, the ancient pact maker, the infernal pact maker. Say, hey, I made this deal with this particular spirit. This part I made when I was young. It no longer suits my needs. I'd like to renegotiate it. Work with that spirit. Okay? But you can easily work with the African Caribbean traditions within demonology. The Bokor does. The Bokors work with demons. They work with angels. They sell their services for profit. It's called commerce. They've been doing that for hundreds of thousands of years. It's not just Haitian Voodoo. It's not just, Marimberos. You look at the Polero, you look at the Membo, you look at the Hungan, the Bokor with the C, not the K. Because the Bokor with the C is actually a witch doctor. They peddle their cures, they peddle their services just as much as a Bokor or a Marimberos, a Satanist even. You're performing a service for the community. You're serving the spirits, not the people, not a group of people. You are the ambassador to these spirits. You're not the mouthpieces to these spirits because they can possess you and work through you. Anybody who gets on YouTube and types in, say, for example, Haitian Voodoo or Voodoo, okay, or rituals and rites, you're going to see, or even Palo Mayumbi, or even say, for an example, let's go with Santa Muerte, for an example, down in Mexico. You're going to see the spiritualism of these through both ritual and ceremony. It was Dr. Zenberg who wrote about the set and setting. The set is your set of mind or the location, okay? Whereas the setting can be changed between persons, people. It could be a peristyle, it could be an altar room, it could be a cemetery, it could be an abandoned church, it could be out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, wherever the ritual is, okay? When you come upon that ritual, it is that setting. You see the candles, you see the altar setup, the decors, such as the seals, the sigils, and then you get into that setting of the mind. You let go and you begin to delve into it. This is the setting of the mind. The best way I can describe to you is look at the soldier coming back from war. Look at all the PTSD that they go through, the traumas that they have to live with. From IEDs exploding on the road to watching their brothers in arms being gunned down. You go over to Africa and you've got women being sexually assaulted. You know, you got children being brought into a military standard where they don't have a childhood. They don't get to play as children. They've been drug into a war zone. You know the psychological effect this shit has? This is what I'm talking about from Dr. Zenberg's perspective. It is that setting that can trigger your mindset. You're going from your conscious to your subconscious state of mind in this case, which is why it is always good that you can be initiated into these systems. You'll learn a lot, especially that the authors don't put into the books that they write. They put a lot of stuff in, but they leave things out. So you will learn more that way. But it also helps to be a part of a community for protection and guidance. Okay? This is the one thing the witch trials and the burning times have taught occultists. You want to be around like-minded individuals. But you also have to watch yourself because there are what is known as witch hunters. Witch hunters, such as the Bokor with a C, will infiltrate and try to destroy the work of those serious adepts who are doing services for the clientele, such as the Bokor. Okay? Con artists come into play and they will teach maybe 25% truth and the rest is just horseshit. Okay? Bullshit stuff. And it no longer becomes the occult, but rather a cult. Just cult. Not occult, but cult at that point. So you really want to look at it from both perspectives and see what works for you, okay, as an individual. Because when it comes down to it, your practices and your association with these spirits is yours and yours alone. Okay, whatever oaths you make, whatever deals you make, whatever pacts you make, that is between you and those spirits, not some other person. Because everybody's going to have an opinion on the matter. Opinions, a friend of mine once said, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. And it's true. It really is true. I can't tell you how many times I've met hostility because I wanted to know about something within Haitian Voodoo or Voodoo in general, and I've been hated on because of the views that I've learned. Okay. And I've backed them up with sources and everything else. And a lot of people have hated me for it in the works. But you know what? I don't care about those who belittle. I don't give a shit about those who try to limit. Those who are trying to create, those are the ones that are true. Okay? Those who are true, their words and their actions are going to align. If they don't align, get the fuck away. Be wary of them, okay? Because no, there's something there that is kind of hinky. It's not working for you. There's something that you're noticing that's not adding up. Guess what? Those are warning signs. Those are warning signs. Think of um, think of women when they go to a nightclub. Okay, they always stay around their own kind. Why? It's like the same thing when they go to the restaurant. It's protection, but it's also to see what their friends think of you. Okay, but think of these traditions as those of going to church. As long as you're with them, you're good. But if you get a mind of your own, it's a big fuck you. You're shunned until you get your ass back in gear. All right. So really take that into consideration. These are things that you really want to pay attention to because of the fact that there's a difference between worldly views and spiritual. But you also want to know the spirits that you work with. Get to identify their energies, their currents, because other spirits will come in and to try to disrupt that. Okay. Take, for an example, John Ramirez. Okay. Look at the stories he spun about his so called adventures into Santeria and Palo Mayombe. And then as soon as he wrote a book, now they're demons. He's an ex Satanist now. Wow. Apparently, he doesn't know that these are three different associations. Christianity, Satanism, Palo, Santeria. Scratch that. That was four, actually. Four different traditions. So that's what I'm saying. You got to watch out for these cons. And one of the stories, if you go underneath Google and you type in the dangers of Santeria and the occult, you're going to see a story by John Ramirez. Okay, his childhood, how he got initiated into Santeria, how he became associated with Palo Mayombe, and where he met his wife, and how he got into Christianity. But then you go to other interviews, and his age differs, his the amount of time he spent in the occult differs. These are warning signs, basically. You've got Christians speaking out against him. You've got um, devil worshippers speaking out against him. You get his Palo practitioners supposedly speaking out against him. You get a lot of people trying to expose this guy. And it's funny because you do one video on the guy, you're hounded for like 4 weeks, and it's like, oh, you just did one video. How can you be obsessed with the guy? You see, this is their thought form. It's more of, hey, technicians USA, welcome back. So yeah, so I mean, it's really you got to watch out for the warning signs so that you know the spirits. But like I said, in this particular video, the dangers of Santeria in the occult, he supposedly went into through astral projection to weaken the JCI in the spiritual. Okay, went around speaking curses, the whole caboodle, and then he ended up coming to this one where people were praying to Jesus Christi, Jesus Christ. And he couldn't get in there. Couldn't do shit. Okay. And then he supposedly practiced the occult. And as he grew in the occult, he started applying it to his life and went to nightclubs and preyed on Christians in particular. Typical Christian belief structure. So you got to understand that there are spirits that we call them Gregori. Okay. These are spirits that can be made to drive you down a desolate road. Okay. You got spirits that are baneful to humanity. These are kokodamon in Greek. Whereas the daemon is a spirit that is beneficial to you. They will help you, they will guide you, they will be the best allegiance, allies that you have, as long as you keep your word to them. It does not matter if you're studying more than one system. It does not matter. As long as you honor your word in the creed that you made with those spirits. John Ramirez, well, guess what? He's fucked up on both sides. He has no protection. He's lied on both sides. He's betrayed his oath so many times. He's got no protection. And then when somebody speaks out, guess what? You're the bad guy. Everybody else is wrong, except for him. And then you have his followers, the herd conformity, the sheephood, the brainwashed, the cult members. We call them sentinels. There are so many because you never hear from them more than once. Sometimes maybe twice. They come and they go. They strike and they go. As of right now, and I'm going to bring that video up. Let's see. I have 3.1K views, and that was a month ago. Okay? A month ago. I've responded maybe 5 times. That's it. But only to a few of them. Why? Because of what they said. Simply stated facts and left it at that. That's all I did. And it's pissed them off. As a friend of mine said, you did something right. You hit such a nerve, it would be like kicking them between the legs. Literally castrating them. In this case, castrating John Ramirez. Just from that one video, because I have over 3.1K hits on that one video. Just that one video. It doesn't matter that I've done 21 to 22 videos since then. Nobody's touched on that. So you see what I mean. People have such a limited scope when it comes to religion that they're going to believe what they want to believe. But until you get out of those systems, get away from that dogma and leave that dogma behind, and you start practicing it for yourself, that you really begin your journey of ascension or descension, depending on the system. You are truly beginning to learn at that state. You're becoming more spiritual, more aware, more self-confident. You're gaining that knowledge, that insight, and you're getting that intuition from working with these spirits, that you get that hidden insight into other people. I mean, have you ever went to talk to somebody and all of a sudden it's like, no, I'm not going to get involved with this individual because there's something about it. It's like going on Facebook and you get a friend request. 2 photos, 0 information about the individual. Obviously, it means one of 2 things. 1, it's a new profile. Or 2, it's a troll. Plain and simple. But until you start learning for yourself, you're not going to get very far. No, you do not have to listen to other people's opinions. It does help because you will learn certain things. But when it comes to any tradition, you will learn more if you're initiated into that system. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very hard road for you as an independent individual of the arts. The left-hand path is not for the faint of heart. It's a solitary state to the point of being a hermit. You are basically the Hierophant in that state. You are the magician. Plain and simple. You're the Bokor. You are the Miramberos. You are the Darok in Gaelic, meaning dark oak. The Warlock in witchcraft, meaning oathbreaker and deceiver. Because you choose to speak on things, whereas they don't. They don't want people to know this shit. So they'll belittle you. They will call you out and they will sit there and hound you. Say, you're not right living right for God. Or you are a demon. I can't tell you, just on that one video I mentioned, exposing John Ramirez about a month ago. So far, I've been called a demon, and I've been called a devil. I've been called the Antichrist, and I have been called evil. 4 different names by all these people. Why? Because I spoke truth and backed it up with numerous sources? Wow. I must be evil. You know what I'm saying? So when you get into these traditions and you start learning, you're going to find that you're going to be hated. You're going to make allies, but you're also going to make friends. But most often, you're going to find, if you kick up dust, you're going to have a whole slew of enemies. But it comes down to what you're willing to do. All right? What you are willing to do. What are you willing to go through? Do you want to put up with the dogma to become initiated? Do you want to put out hundreds of thousands of dollars to somebody that could easily lead you down a desolate road? That's up to you. That is solely your choice. But like I said, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. Whatever you preach, always back it up and always make yourself available to the public. All right? I want to thank Technicians USA, Santa Morte on a Harley, and Holly. Thanks for stopping by. Means a lot. And for those of you who are going to come on after, take notes. It's a long video. I get it. You know, it's an hour and 2 minutes and 43 seconds and counting. But I hope you go out and get these books. I hope you learn. Learn from various different sources. Find the commonalities. Begin your own journey. I'm out.